Welcome back to part 2 of our conversation with designated drinker Heather Wibbels, the managing director of Bourbon Women. So if you've missed part 1, go ahead and belly back up to that bar and give it a listen first. We will save a seat right here for you. So Heather, in part 1, you shared what Bourbon Women is and some of what it means to be the managing director. But right now, you know what I'd really love to do is dive into your cocktail book. Can you please tell us what we might find within the pages of, and I have to tell you this, I love this title, Bourbon is My Comfort Food, the Bourbon Women Guide to Fantastic Cocktails at Home.
I love that.
I know, isn't it great?
And it is a comfort food. And it's not just a comfort food to me. I think for a lot of people who are bourbon lovers, that title kind of appeals to them because at the end of the long day, you know, it's very likely that we're pouring ourselves Glencairn of bourbon or a cocktail to sip on at the end of the day. So the book came out of me winning that cocktail contest for 3 years in a row. I started doing cocktail content creation for Bourbon Women and then started working with other brands. And when the pandemic hit, I thought, well, I can't do, my other job at the time was shut down. And I thought, well, I can't do that. I'll just learn how to create and write and photograph cocktails and put them on the internet.
I didn't something really little like that.
Just something, you know, no big deal. I didn't realize it was one of the most difficult types of photography to learn because you have ice, which is reflective. You have glass, which is reflective. You have liquid, which is reflective. You've got light bouncing all over the place. But to me, it's kind of fun to learn things that are tricky and difficult and challenging. So that's where I started with putting together all of these cocktails. And at about the 10th anniversary of Bourbon Women, which was going to be in 2021, at our 10th anniversary, we wanted to do something special. So two people who were in the organization, Peggy Stevens, our founder, and Susan Riegler, who was president for a long time, is a longtime bourbon authority, huge spirits writer. They said, we think you should write a book, Heather, with all your cocktails in it. And so I did what you do when Peggy and Susan tell you should do something. I say, yes, sure, exactly. I will do that right away, having no idea what it's going to entail. And so I put the book together. But what I didn't want was just a book that was just a list of bourbon cocktails. To me, that's not very exciting. There's a lot of those. So what I tried to do was develop ways and what I call cocktail labs in the book, which are little experiments to do to help you develop your palate. So, for example, the chapter on old fashions really talks to you about how to use different bitters in an old fashioned and what the bitters add to the flavors, how to match the bitters to the inherent flavors in the actual bourbon or the whiskey, you know, how to pull something out of the flavor when the nose might be really well developed, but you don't really taste it as much. Sometimes you can use bitters for that. So it's really about helping you discover your own cocktail and bourbon palette and using that to create your own bourbon cocktails.
That's awesome. That's a lot what you do as well. I mean, you help everyone understand the differences of the products that they're using and how things come together. That's awesome.
So what Heather's not telling you is that she has access to so much good whiskey. so what gets allocated to your state and her friends in where did you say we're in Arizona? Her friends in Arizona, their life sucks because they do not get that much whiskey. The further you get from Kentucky,
no.
Hard.
I will tell you that it's actually not true. If I want to find stuff that's hard to find, like Blanton's, can't find it here. Like stuff that's really allocated, everyone in Kentucky either knows someone who knows someone, or if it happens to get to a liquor barn or a retailer, a lot of people will just sell it to their friends and not even put it on the open market. So I have a better chance, actually, if I drive across the river to Indiana, of finding some of these things in these small liquor stores than I do of places in Kentucky. And I get people from the organization or from other parts of the country messaging me all the time because I go by cocktail_Contessa. Cocktailcontessa.com is my website. And so I'll have people reach out to me through that, and they'll say, I'm coming to Kentucky. Where can I find Blanton's? Or where can I find Weller? And I'm like, good luck, because I can't find it.
Did you tell? All right, so here's a fun fact, right? And Heather gonna test, right? So you like Blanton's or Weller or any of that stuff. The distillery each day sells 2 different expressions at the distillery, and you can buy 1 bottle of each depending on what they release that day. There is no. Nobody knows who's going to release, what's going to be released that day. The people that work in the shop don't know. Nobody knows. It is a mystery until the day it comes out. The only thing that you know that you could probably get every day there is the vodka and the white dog, pretty much, right? You agree?
That's exactly true.
I was fortunate enough to be there on the day that I got some Weller. And my girlfriend was with me who does not drink bourbon. And I got a second bottle of Weller. Because you can only buy one. You can, and they have a bracelet. They put a bracelet on you. So they scan your bracelet and you get one and whatever, right? So I call my husband, like, I got 2 bottles of Weller. By the time I got back to DC, he's like, I got one for $1,100. We're selling it. I'm like, what? I was like, we're not selling it. He goes, it's like, Gina pays for the entire trip. And I go, all right, I guess we'll sell the Weller. And he's like, you're this upset about that? And I was like, yeah. And I'm like, it's not Eagle Rare. How'd you get $1,100? He's like, oh, it's not Eagle Rare? He's like, oh, it's not $1,100. Because Eagle Rare apparently I was there. It was 2 weeks before they had limited Eagle Rare go out. And like, I was like in tears. I was like, I went 2 weeks earlier and got a bottle. It's that hard to get whiskey right now. It's crazy. And it's like the market's blown up and there's only so much.
I don't find it hard to believe that you said Neil said I'm going to sell one. That sounds exactly like Neil.
Yeah. So all right, here's a fun question. It's your last day on this planet. What's your last sip going to be?
Oh my God.
Yes.
That seems evil, Gina.
It is evil, but it's so good. So, because like every bourbon person has a feeling and expression and they have a bourbon for it. Right? I'm sure you do, right? Every emotion, every party, everything has a feeling. So I want to know if it's your last sip.
That's like the hardest question. That's even harder than what's your favorite whiskey. Because if it's favorite whiskey, I could say, well, let me tell you distillery by distillery. You know what? Let me be honest. If it's my last day, as long as it was like 100 proof or over and I was sipping it with people I loved, it would be great. Like, I think what's important with whiskey is the people that you share it with and the people that you drink it with. And that's why groups like Bourbon Women are so much fun, because you have these relationships with these people who you otherwise wouldn't get to meet, that have these radically different life experiences. And you have the most fun, engaging conversations with them because you're both interested in bourbon. So honestly, I don't think any of those bottles I will still have left. At this, hopefully when I die, I don't think I'll still have those bottles around.
More. You're going to have more.
But, I hope not. My God, my house is so flammable right now with all the alcohol I have in it. It's not even funny. We live in a wood house. And so the other day I was talking to my husband and I'm like, man, if our house catches on fire, we got to run fast because we put a lot of liquor
Fast
in
and
there.
far.
Fast and far. I'm like, you grab the animals, I'll pop the window out. So, yeah.
Well, I like how so all the distillery is listening to this. She really did skate around that question.
But speaking of the organization, what are some of your goals, like in your membership for 2023?
For 2023, we have a lot in store. Last year was the first full year of our Bourbon Women Foundation, which is really designed to create and build some professional development programs to advance women in the industry and to really increase the diversity level. When I talk to you guys about wanting anybody who drinks whiskey in any way they want to be considered a whiskey drinker, to me that opens the door to more diversity in the whiskey industry as consumers. And I think we need to also mirror that in terms of the people who are making it. From my conversations with people across the industry, it is evident that consumers have a lot more joy and connection with the brand if they can see it being made by people who look like them and people who have the same life experiences as them. And so I think one of the things that the whiskey community and the bourbon community is really doing right now is understanding that getting that kind of diversity into the industry as consumers and as people who are making it is vital, because bourbon brings community to it. And when we need to make sure everybody has Everybody has a chair at the table. Everybody has a place to sit. Everybody can see themselves in whiskey. And it's something that our organization is really excited about, just because we know there's a lot of growth and potential there.
That's awesome. Everyone should be included. You know what else should be included in this conversation, Gina? How about we get a cocktail?
All right, Heather. So I'm completely inspired by you. And this is a cocktail that I have made before. So it's kind of Manhattan-esque. It's not quite the same. And we're going to do, our parts on this is going to be a little bit unique. So normally if you're going to do a Manhattan, we agree there would be 2 parts bourbon to 1 part vermouth, or you could do half part vermouth and then half part of an aperitif or whatever you'd like to do the ratios to mix it up. This is going to be, what we're going to use today is Bardstown, which is a bourbon company. And we're going to use, and it's an 100 proof. So and I picked it up when I was in Kentucky. So we're going to use 2 1/4 ounces. We're making 2 cocktails. We're using 2 1/4 ounces for this cocktail. So it's not exactly the same straight thing and a straight ratio that I normally would do. And once you pour the bourbon into the base of your stirring glass, we're going to add a pinch or 2 pinches, I'm making 2 cocktails, of flake salt. This is a Maldon salt. And if you notice, well, what's in there, it's dissolving pretty quickly because obviously this is a little bit, it's a little overproofed. Or really underproof because it's not can strength, right? So I hate when the people say that it's overproof, right? It's not quite bottle and bond because it's a little bit over that. Then we're gonna add Cynar. And if you haven't used Cynar, it is an artichoke-based liqueur that's made from cacao and artichoke. Cynar is the name of it. And it is from Italy. It is really quite wonderful. There's a million secret ingredients. If you know all the ingredients, then you're more amazing than the other companies because nobody knows what they actually are. I personally think it changes year over year. I just got the new bottling of Cynar and it actually tastes a little bit different than I had before. And it says on there Cynar 70. So it's been quite interesting playing with it now. So we're gonna add our ice. So notice 3 ingredients, salt, bourbon, and Cynar. We're gonna fill up our stirring glass to 3/4 full. And we're gonna give this a rotation, right? So if you listen to the Designated Drinker Show, you know that 30 rotations is normal, 45 if you live in a hot hut. And if you're outside, please don't make a stirred cocktail. Get yourself a blender and make it a frozen Manhattan. Sorry. So you have the Cynar in there. There is no reason to add bitters. If you add bitters in there, it's like it's lost. You're never gonna taste it. It's impossible. But what it is gonna do, it's gonna caramelize and bring up that bourbon. And the bourbon is gonna take on some of the new flavors and taste more of the woody tones, which give you those characteristics that you're searching for: the caramel, the vanilla, the cinnamon, you know, whatever flavor that you get out of the bourbon. And I always say this: if you're tasting a whiskey or tasting any spirit for that matter, it's unique to you. No one can tell you how you taste things. You taste and experience it yourself. So enjoy it and play with it. And it's a really great recipe. So 2 and 2. So if you don't worry. We'll give you the recipe on Designated Drinker Show. All right, so it's a little bit warm in here. That was 45 rotations. My arm is tired. I know that, right? Okay, what do I always say? Make sure you chill the glass. Why would you spend all that time chilling a drink and then pour into a hot glass? I need this. Boop. Okay, and now we're gonna pour. Delicious. I will drink this one, I think, maybe. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Beautiful color. Okay. So here comes the point where you can decide, do I want to put a cherry in this? Maybe. Right? I am definitely more of a fan of the orange. That's why I said it's not quite a Manhattan. It's Manhattan-esque. We're going to use a little orange peel on there, and we're going to just give it a little orange kiss, if you will. So one thing that's really lovely in this world is chocolate and oranges, yeah? And if you don't agree with me, then whatever. What this orange does, it just really brings out the fact that you have the Cynar in there and that chocolate. So really what happens is that you really do start to taste that salty caramel. So cheers to Heather, and I can't wait to make one of these for you in person someday. And congratulations on your book.
Oops. Sorry.
Oh,
Oh,
no.
no. I spilled it.
You can't spill a bourbon.
I splashed the drink. I
Now
didn't.
now you have to throw it over your shoulder.
No,
Better
do
do
not
that
do
outside.
that. Do not.
Yeah.
You're gonna make you have a heart attack if you do that.
What do you think? Do you taste it? Do you say it's a caramel?
Oh, it's so good. No, and I'm not a bourbon drinker. That's not my go-to, and that is really beautiful. I love the caramel, which is crazy. The fact that you said there isn't any. I watched you stood there and watched you make the drink, so I know there isn't. It's really lovely.
And this drink, and here's the thing: this drink is really great on ice too. So if it is hot out, throw it over an ice cube and let it. Let the water dilution go in there. Again, you have a high proof spirit. You can throw, a little bit of water is going to do it a little bit of good. And then, you can always adapt these into large pitcher style drinks if you're going to have a dinner party or something to start to end the evening with.
So, Gina, how come you used flake salt instead of saline solution?
So saline solution is awesome. I totally love that. And especially if you're going to use distilled water with it, right? What I don't like is when you do saline solution and you use tap water because there's so much salt in that water already.
Yeah.
And I did not, and to be quite honest with you, I did not have access to distilled water to do that, but I kind of would have done that. But then that's a whole chemistry thing. I feel like for people at home, you're more inclined to take the nice Moldone salts and put a couple of flakes in your drink than you are to make the saline solution. So this is more for an at-home. I'm with my at-home bartenders. I'm like, let's do this, and I love my industry peeps. And if you do want to mess around with saline solution, 100% get yourself distilled water and you do it with that. Don't try to do it with your tap water. I don't care where you live. If you live off of a well water's pretty good, but the problem is that your salt content's going to be higher because that's how you purify your water. So it's very interesting. But I will say this to all the people that do live off of a well. Don't put any salt in your water because a bourbon and water off of people that live off of a well is always better than any other water. It's so delicious. It is just a pure water source. As long as you know your water is good to drink.
Yeah.
We're pretty lucky in Louisville, actually, because so many distilleries are here. The tap water is actually what they use to proof down a lot of the whiskey. So probably my tap water is fine. I know when I go other places, I can definitely taste the water, and I can definitely taste the salt that you're talking about.
Yeah, it's wild. I will say that I'm telling you, Kentucky's great. I loved that you went to when I went there. They get their water right out of the Willett, just for example, gets their water literally from the it's not a creek. It's a spring. The spring right outside of the distillery. It's great. You can look at it. It's amazing. It's beautiful. They are very careful with it. It's wonderful. I think Rowan's Creek runs into their property as well. And you see all these different names of whiskeys, and you're like, oh, where's all this coming from? It's coming from, a lot of them is coming from there. Yes, I'm sure that Maker's Mark's using, tap water. I have no idea. I still love Maker's Mark. This is not against it. Big fan. My husband has tattoos of Maker's Mark. We love it. We're a Maker's Mark family, for sure.
Did you go to Maker's Mark when you were here?
I did not. I'm not allowed to go there without my husband. He was very adamant that I could not go there and have a better experience than he has. So I'm very fortunate to have gone and got treated very well at all the distilleries. And also, for people that are listening to this podcast in Louisville, I love 3rd Street Dive Bar. It's the greatest bar.
Only second to last call here.
Only second. I love that bar, though. What a great bar. You guys have a great, great neighborhood bar there. Such a good time.
So where's our house? We got to do our housekeeping. Where are they going to go get that cocktail?
So if you want our recipes or how-tos, you're going to go to designateddrinker.show. If you need a link how to get to Heather and to Bourbon Women, Heather's book, you should get the book. That's a great idea. And then I believe that Heather's going to tell you about something that's coming up in the summer.
Yeah, what do you have coming up? And it'll be all wrong if we miss it. What's coming up with Bourbon Women?
So in August, we have our national conference, which is a combination of an industry conference, a whiskey conference, a girls' weekend, and a family reunion. It is almost, I probably more than 400 people this year, 400, mostly women, come to Louisville, Kentucky. And we start on Thursday with special excursions and VIP experiences, end up with excursions and fun workshops, keynotes from top speakers in the industry on Friday and on Saturday. And on Sunday, some people aren't finished. And so they, quite frankly, will get up, have breakfast, and go out to some more distillery excursions on Sunday morning. And then scattered throughout the weekend, we have these specialty events like in a bourbon house dinners that are hosted by some of the big wigs in the bourbon industry, like Peggy No Stevens and Susan Ringler. And we have all kinds of specialty events so that people can really dive deep. It's an entire 4 days of bourbon fun. And it is something that I've been to every single one. I love it. I'm helping run it now as managing director. And it is so much fun to put together unique workshops and partner with these distilleries. We had 45 sponsors, I think, last year.
Wow.
Helping make that happen. It's incredible. The support from the bourbon industry it really speaks to their support, not just of women, but to expanding their consumer base, because I think they realize that, women make, do you all know this fact that women make or directly influence, I think, 80% of all consumer spending?
Yep, absolutely. As a creative director, it's every strategy for any product, service, you name it. It was 90% of one of those creative briefs. Your demographic was, your target audience would be female, even if, and especially if it were a man's product, because men buy what their wives or their women in their lives tell them to buy. So even, it could be, you name it, men's cologne, deodorant, a men's drug, all of them. It's always been your demographic is female, which if you want to talk about diversify, I mean, women make up we're probably at like 4% of all creative directors in the world in your ad agencies. Yeah. So I would have men tell me, women don't think that way.
Yeah. Well, Victoria's Secret's a good example of that bullshit, right? Yeah. And thank you, Taylor Swift, for making it known that he was a man. Now, will Taylor Swift be at the conference?
Well, we haven't contacted her yet. So if you have connections to her PR agency, well, then maybe.
I mean, she's the greatest.
We really, we pulled together some top speakers in the industry. We had Marianne Eaves come in last year, and we had Jackie Zykan come in. Those of you who are bourbon geeks will know exactly who those two women are. We have authors come in, podcasters come in, like I was telling you guys. So it's a really fun weekend because you are sitting at a table and you're talking to a woman and asking her, where she's from, and you find out she's the master distiller of a small craft distillery, and she would just love to host you, if you stop by her distillery. It's unpretentious, it's fun, it is authentic connections, and I will stop talking about it now because I could talk about it for hours. It's so much fun.
No, that's great. Great.
I'm loving that.
And you gotta come. You guys both need to come.
Absolutely. So before I hand it off to you, I just want to ask one question for our listeners. And you basically just stated it, but I want everyone to be sure and hear it from you directly that you do not need to be a master. I have a great understanding of bourbon. It's merely the curiosity. This is an organization meant for all levels of interest and passion for bourbon. Correct?
Oh, absolutely. We have people who just had a glass and thought it sounded like a cool idea, come to events, and they're like, I love the bourbon, but I love the women too. It's just a fun group to hang out with. And we do have people who are master distillers and master blenders who are members and longtime supporters. And I think they love as much as we do connecting with the women who are enjoying with their products, right? Because you want to see yourself in the whiskey that you make, in the bourbon that you make. You want to see people like you enjoying it. I think they get as much from coming to the event, whether they're supporting it or speaking or, providing spirits for it as a sponsor. I think they get as much as the women do who get to meet them and interact with them.
That's awesome. All right. It's all you.
Okay. So, in modern times, Do you like that? I changed
I
it.
like that. You're not very serious.
In
I like
modern times, people identify themselves with all kinds of spirit animals. And you might identify yourself with the great state of Kentucky's cardinal. And you might be like, I am fiercely loyal. I will peck the eyes out of anybody that tries to steal my whiskey. But if you
big red bright breast.
and well, no, she'd be a female, so she'd be tan. Only the males are red and showy.
Oh, I was thinking the robin.
The
I was
women,
thinking of a robin.
The women are cute.
I should shut
All
up.
right,
This is all you.
Anyway, on that note, if you can identify yourself with a spirit ingredient, now that could be an ingredient for cocktails or an ingredient for food, but one ingredient that identifies, like that you identify with, and what does it say about you?
So I make sure I understand. You mean one cocktail ingredient or one type of bourbon, or
It could be a spirit, like your spirit ingredient, like it could be for food or drink. It doesn't matter. Something that you could be like lemon. It's just is everything for me.
why do you have to ask such hard questions?
What is your last?
Okay, so don't you even dare ask that question, Gina. What's the last bite of food before you pass? No, I would say. So the first thing that came to mind when you said that is an Amaro with really chocolatey tones, because I love chocolate, but I love things that are really bitter. And I always joke that, when I drink a Black Manhattan, that it's dark like my soul,
Yeah.
And so I think one of the things I love about Amari in general, especially combined with bourbon, is that with something with that much bitterness can really pull out real specific flavor notes from the bourbon that might be hidden otherwise. But I particularly like Amari that have chocolate and coffee undertones in them. Those are my favorite. And if there isn't enough in there, you don't really need to, but sometimes I'll add coffee or chocolate bitters to it.
I mean, I'm down for all of that. I like it.
Good.
So yours would be lemon?
What? No, I'm just throwing it out there. Mine today is probably, I don't know. Blood orange has been singing to me lately. I don't know. Blood orange is where I would go today.
Nice.
Bitter and sweet. Yeah, bitter and sweet. And rare. And you can only get them a
vibrantly
time.
red. Yeah.
Well, on that vibrantly red note, let's close up the show.
Cheers.
Last call. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks, Heather.
You're very welcome. Thanks so much for having me.
The Designated Drinker Show is produced by Missing Link, a Latino-owned, strategy-driven, creatively fueled production co-op. From ideation to creation, we craft human connections through intelligent, engaging, and informative content. Also in the Missing Link lineup of podcasts is Rodger That, a podcast dedicated to guiding you through the haze of dementia, led by skilled caregivers. Now, if you're looking for a whole new way to enjoy the theater, check out Between Acts, an immersive audio theater podcast experience. Each episode takes you on a spellbinding journey through the works of newfound playwrights, from dramas to comedies and everything in between. Find Missing Link's League of Podcasts on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And while you're there, please don't forget to follow, download, and review the shows. Your reviews help our shows reach new audiences. To find out more about Missing Link, visit missinglink.company. That's missinglink.company.